Okay, so walk and talk for today. We're going to talk about alcohol. Quick one on that. It's very interesting. But before I start, so this is at the back of my house. Beautiful views, but notice there is frost on the ground. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's fresh. Hence why I've got a couple of layers on, because before you hit the sunshine, it is fresh. But anyway, alcohol. What is your relationship like with alcohol? I've written before for the Whole Man Academy e-letter about alcohol when I worked in the city, and wow, I mean, basically you had to drink. I mean, you know, some people might say, well, you didn't, but it was just part of the culture. And you know, you'd take, who's flying a plane at this time in the morning? Ridiculous. You would go out with clients and you would drink. You'd go out to celebrate a good deal and you'd drink. You'd go out when you were pissed off because you got something wrong and you'd drink. You could basically say you'd unwind on a Friday and you'd drink. And also it ended up with dates as well, where when when I was single, in those good old days where I used to go out and meet those lovely ladies, and of course generally it would involve alcohol, and usually a bit more alcohol. And I was wondering also, I wonder how much money, let's say you're a guy like me, I'm 44, so let's say you started drinking when you were 18, never any earlier than that, but how much money I must have spent on booze, going out either, and not even on expenses, but my own at weekends, parties, stuff like that, and then the stupid stuff you did afterwards. Someone dropped me off some drugs or something in the Cotswolds. So I decided a couple of months ago to stop drinking. Now, it's not that I was drinking loads, and I've certainly done less drinking since I moved up to the Cotswolds. But I just realised it just wasn't serving me, and I had some of these mornings where, you just feel like, you just wake up and you're like, oh, I just feel a bit shit. And I'm very strict on, I find it very important to have a good morning routine. But guess what? Those mornings where you wake up with a hangover, you just be like, you're less inclined to actually do what you should be doing to start the day the right way. And it culminated in, is that the right word? It doesn't matter. On one of my son's birthdays, I had loads to drink because we had a party, and it was meant to be from 2 till 5, and then it didn't finish till midnight. And I was, drinking the whole time, enjoying myself, having a great time. And I don't think I made a tit of myself too much. But the point is, the next morning, oh my God, when you wake up and you open one eye, you do a bit of a body scan, and you're like, oh dear, this is not going to be good. And when I'm hungover, I literally just feel like I have got no energy and I can't function properly. And it was funny because, of course, the next day you've got the party to clear up because it was at our house. And I got up, came downstairs, then felt like I had to go back to bed. And I don't know if you had this before, but there was a lot to be done that day. And I remember my partner coming in, and it's quite a technical term and quite a loving term, but she's like, get out of fucking bed. Like, you are not laying in bed all morning when my mum and dad, or her mum and dad, are out clearing up gazebos and blah, blah, blah. And I dragged myself out of bed, managed to eat like half a sausage, and then kind of help. But it's one of those really painful days. And I realised how many of my days have I wasted or lost just being hungover and vegetating on the sofa. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. We talked about worst hangovers here at the Whole Man Academy. And let me tell you, back when, Christ, how many years ago was it? I mean, it must have been 20 years ago, because it was around the time that Tony Blair, or you could spell it Blair like liar instead of Blair, but he was just about to become Prime Minister. And I went to a party, it was Ant and Dec, who some of you will know were the TV homies. And I went to one of their album launch parties up in London and drunk loads and loads, and I drunk loads during the lunchtime as well. And I got so drunk that I ended up, didn't even realise, but collapsing outside the steps of the Chelsea and Westminster Town Hall. It was a good place to collapse, and was taken quickly to the hospital by ambulance, which isn't a good state. And the next thing I remember was waking up the next morning with this lovely Irish nurse, who was quite attractive actually, saying, Anthony. And I opened my eyes, I'm like, where the fuck am I? And yeah, great, I'd ended up in hospital. That's not a good place to be. And I didn't drink for about, months afterwards. But I think back to then, and I was like, you know what, anything could have happened to me. Who knows what stupid situations we've all got in when you've got drunk. And you could have ended up with something nasty happening to you. And this is always my worry with when you get really drunk, especially when I was younger. You could wake up the next day and people could tell you that you'd done whatever, and you couldn't honestly say I haven't, because you have no idea what you did last night. And that for me is quite scary, considering that I've got two boys who, thankfully they're still little tiddlers, but in many years' time will be out in theory drinking. So anyway, I decided to give up alcohol, and I've spoke to several of the guys through the Whole Man Academy who haven't drunk as well. So we shall see. I just wonder what your relationship is like with alcohol. For me, it was something that was part of my life, but we shall see how long I can say, do you know what, I'm not having it for. The other interesting thing is when you tell people, the reason I'm breathing is we're going uphill, we're going pretty well. But it's so funny how people's reaction to you not drinking, because they're like, what? You're not going to have any alcohol? I'm like, no, I'm all right at the moment. Huh. And what you realise is that people want you to drink with them because it's the social thing. So I'm very lucky that my partner was like, okay, I'm not drinking as well for various reasons. But I wonder how hard it is when you've got a partner who is like, oh, come on, just have a glass of wine. Just have a beer, just have whatever. Could be a partner or colleague, who knows? But that's where a strong mindset comes in, of being clear and saying, I'm doing this for me and my health. If you want to support me, great. If you don't, then, what's the technical term? Go fuck yourself. So anyway, that's it. That's our walk and talk for today. Later on, I'm interviewing Aidan Lee for the podcast. I said that yesterday, really interesting guy. That'll be out on Friday. And apart from that, I wish you a great day. I'm in the Cotswolds, enjoying a nice little walk, early doors. What is it? It's 8:30, bang on the nose. And I'll be back tomorrow with more thoughts about the world, about men, and optimising your life. Right. Oh, and remember, the world needs strong men.